Good evening. This is the November 21st, 2024 meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission. The time is 6 o'clock. Our first order of business is to convene into work session, and we'll review the cases. Then we'll return into general session around 6:30 to have our public meeting. With that, I'll convene into work session. Okay, well, we have a quorum.
Go in there and change.
Yeah.
There we go.
Okay.
And then we gotta go back.
Okay, are we on?
Let's do it.
Our matrix and identify the fulfillment.
That's what Mary said.
Like Ron.
I thought it
Okay.
was five myself.
So this is our work session for November 21st. Our first order of business is to review roll call on Chairman Edmund Haas. For the rest of the group, Glenn Portman is out, and so is Freddie Guerra. But we have Sue Blankenship,
Present.
Kent Hafman,
Here.
and Cindy Bishop.
Still here.
Oh, and Moore.
Moore's out.
Ed Moore's out. All right, we have enough to keep the boat afloat tonight. So Mary, would you introduce staff and then review the cases?
Yes, sir. So, got myself, Matt Steer, Development Services Coordinator, Administrator, Aaron Tainter, Assistant Director of Public Works, Cole Baker, EIT Graduate Engineer. Steve Schubert should be joining us shortly. Mr. Bob Hager's joining us this evening, our City Attorney, and Phoebe Stell, Deputy City Secretary. All right. So I will go over the cases if that's okay with you.
Yes.
All right.
Yes, it is.
Okay. All right, so we have 3 items on the agenda tonight. The first public hearing is related to 552 Arborbrook Lane regarding a carport. So essentially, just some background for you. The property owner purchased the property back in 2019. It has straight SF12 zoning. What does that mean? It means that minimum lot size is like 12,000 square feet. Minimum house size is like 1,800 square feet. Side yard requirements are 10% of the lot width. So this particular piece of property is about 17,000 plus square feet. The width at the front property line is about 92 feet, which means that for a side yard, it's a minimum requirement of 9 feet. So essentially what happened was he bought the property in 2019, and then about 3 years later, he constructed a bunch of things on the property without any permits, without any inspections. Essentially code compliance was called, said, hey, I don't think, does this guy have permits for what he's doing? So code compliance went out. We checked our files and stuff. There was no permits that were applied for. So essentially we started a case. So then what happens is he built a deck extension, canopy, pergola, covered patio, and a carport on the property.
Those were at the same time as they're all together.
Yeah, around the same period, right? So we used,
Sometime between when he bought it and when code compliance was filed?
yes ma'am.
Okay.
So essentially we told them, okay, you need to come through and, get permits for all this work. When they went through the process, we needed more information regarding the carport. At the end of the day, it's required to be, like I said, minimum setback lines is the same for the main structure, so 9 feet. Essentially, he's got it
9 inches.
about 9 inches from the property line.
So that's what the picture shows, 8.5 times.
Yeah, I think someone went, I think the neighbor went and measured it. So it obviously does not meet the requirements. So faced with that fact, we told them, okay, you need to go before the Board of Adjustment and you can try that procedure and ask for a variance, right? So back in September, we went before the Board of Adjustment. Board of Adjustment basically looks at your case and says, is there any hardship? And hardship is not because you created it yourself. It's, is there some kind of topography issues? Do you have a weird shaped lot? Those types of things. So it has nothing to do with, does it look good? Are your neighbors in favor of it? It's not any of that kind of stuff. So went before the Board of Adjustment. He was turned down. He was denied.
What was the vote?
Oh,
It was,
I know it's
I thought you
unanimous.
told me it was unanimous.
Yeah, I think it was unanimous.
Okay.
There, I might have been 4-1. Might have
Yeah.
been.
I'll have to ask Steve when he comes.
Okay, no worries.
I don't know what the vote was. All I know is it was denied. So because they're a quasi judicial board, the appeal process for that is to go to district court. He decided not to pursue that, and wanted to come. I guess he heard, some other, I'm sure he's gonna bring up that there's other carports within so much distance, and Sherwood Park got carports, and this and that. What we have to focus on tonight is that we're focusing on this particular case. If there's other carports out there that we're aware of, we are checking into that. It has no bearing on this case. So I don't want us to get sidetracked with that. All right, what else was I gonna say there?
So,
he
Mary,
started-
just
he's
to
done
ask-
a PD for his
I'm sorry, Bob.
PD, it's plan development, so that we can write the regulations to fit that lot.
So the rest of the homes in
And
that
this is
subdivision are straight SF-12 zoning. Like Sherwood Park, totally apples and oranges. It's already a PD. You can write or you can amend the PDs for that. Those are rear entry alleys built with one garage. In this particular house, those lots are like 4,400 square feet. This lot is like over 17,000 square feet, has a 2-car garage. Essentially, he has a car that he can't fit in his garage because it's an extended cab pickup truck. I understand. My husband owns one of those too. It's hard to fit in the garage.
Excuse me, Mary, I didn't hear what Bob said about PDs. What was it?
Well, he requested this PD so that we could write the regulations to relax basically what he could not get from the BOA.
Okay. And if those were rewritten, would those be precedent setting?
Yes,
No.
they would.
Well,
In my mind, we're dealing with the most coveted land use zoning in Coppell, single-family residential. We allow this, that opens Pandora's box in my mind.
well, everyone could come in and get a PD.
Or everyone could just build whatever they want, then come in,
Or we can do what we did in Sherwood.
But
is
a
create
rule
a-
is, PDs aren't precedent setting, so they do not set a precedent.
but it sets it in motion that, I'll just go ask for forgiveness through a PD request.
Well,
And hopefully it gets approved.
Well, yeah, maybe that might be the thought process behind it, but they definitely do not set.
Legally, it's not, but from an appearance standpoint, I understand it.
so I drove the neighborhood and I saw the other carports there that are right up against the property line. And I didn't want to bother you, Mary, to say, well, gee whiz, did those people pull permits? Because they probably didn't. And to your point, we don't want to digress in that, but my question is, like the board, what was the name of the board that he went before that denied?
Board of
Board of
Adjustment.
Adjustment.
Precedent is not a factor, I gather, in their criteria.
Because each piece of property is generally unique.
Uh-huh.
The fact that, one of the criteria for a Board of Adjustment is that if all of them are the same size as a pizza box, and his is just like his neighbor's, he can't demonstrate any uniqueness
Has
that
to be
would
some
allow him.
physical hardship to the
It has to
property.
be a property hardship, not a personal hardship.
Right.
So if the city comes, if you have a front yard setback, for example, and the city comes and takes off 5 feet of your property, and you want to build, and now you can't build because the city's taken your property, or the state, or whoever's widened the road, that's a hardship. You didn't create that, you didn't ask for it. I should have got it.
It's really kind of a weird situation because when you drive up to their home, there's a 25-foot net.
Basketball net.
Yeah,
Basketball
Oh, no,
net.
That's
the
another,
other net.
That's a whole nother issue, I know,
Yeah.
but
spite story.
in terms of being obtrusive, it's like, this is really weird. So something's going on here, you know, with this neighbor.
Yes,
Uh,
there is, but that
Yeah,
doesn't
that'll
really.
come up tonight, I'm sure.
I'm sure it'll come up, but it
But
doesn't.
that's all
matter.
beside the point in my mind.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Here's the thing, the thing is, it looks, it's very well done. It looks
No question.
great,
Looks great.
but that's not a basis.
It's not
Okay,
pertinent.
on all the other violations that he didn't get permits for, did he get permits for all of those? Did he
Not-
Did
no,
he
no, we can't
go to the
issue a-
Board of Adjustments for them? Did he
I
do anything
can't-
with the rest of the violations?
We can't issue a permit because it doesn't meet the zoning
No.
requirements.
No,
He had other
Yeah, all the other stuff.
work that
Yeah,
was done.
The other one.
Yeah, so he's working on building permits and that sort of thing.
So
Okay.
but hold on. So he's working on building permits after the fact.
Right,
Yes.
I'm not getting this.
right.
I mean, you can't, any reputable contractor would know, you gotta go to the city to get a permit. You gotta talk to the city at least. And
Unless he built it himself.
He did. I think he's in the construction business. You know what, you can ask him,
Yeah.
Yeah.
he, as a property owner, has the right to file the application, and here he is.
Yeah.
Right.
He may not get what he wants, he didn't get what he wanted at the BOA, he may not get what he wants when he goes to the
But
council.
to Sue's question though, the others that are there, which maybe have been put up illegally or whatever, those are being currently addressed through the process, and we're
Yes.
focused only on ours.
Yes.
Exactly. They should have no bearing on what you're looking at tonight, because each one will be looked at independently, and there may be other circumstances for those other ones.
And some of them have a permit, man.
Yeah, some of them have a permit, some of them were constructed illegally, some of them are in code enforcement
Yeah,
hands
so I
right now.
have three that we were looking at after this case. It's 517 Arbor Brook, 524 Green Ridge, and 553 Lea Valley.
But all of this after the fact, because this case is here.
Yeah, I mean, those was brought our attention, because some of those are in the backyard, we really cannot see them from driving the street. So some of those, even if our code officer driving, you cannot see them, it's all the way in the back. And some what he brought us, it's not even considered a cardboard.
Mr. Haas, this happens invariably. When we catch someone, they go, everyone else is doing it
Everyone
too, and so
points
we go,
fingers.
okay, fair enough. And now they get a visit from us because we didn't know they were there.
Okay, I have a question on the PD issue-ness of this. So, he's already in a PD.
No.
He's
No?
not.
He's
He's just in
straight
straight zoning.
Yeah.
He's asking for
Got
a
it.
PD.
And he's
that
asking
allows-
for a PD only on his lot,
Yes.
not the whole community. He's not asking for, he's just asking it for on his lot so he can get this variance.
Yeah, or,
Got it.
or
Condition, yeah,
special
treatment.
development regulations that only apply to him, yes.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
So what if, this is hypothetical, but what if all of them came at the same time, like the Sherwood?
Mhm.
We'd be considering it collectively then, right?
Right.
Potentially, yes.
But Sherwood had one, many
My recollection, when we took the Sherwood thing, the council, they thought there were special circumstances, that they had some, the city kind of had some complacency in,
Yeah, they were there 30 years, 25 years.
yeah.
Plus they were rear access.
And
This
the
is
other
front.
one
front.
car-
They
And it-
weren't, they weren't
and it's
existing
really-
PD.
And it's almost like a, I don't want to say they're a multifamily, because they're not, but they're
They're
kind of
duplexes.
townhomes and,
Well, they were
Yeah,
already
it's just-
existing BD, they have one car garage instead of two, so it was more circumstances to that than this one.
And you have Confederates on the council that said the same. If we allow it there, then we're gonna be looking at this. And we said, yes, you're right. So here we are.
Hypothetically, could he expand his garage so his car would fit?
That's Matt's question.
Yeah, so we brought that up to him. It's like you,
Can't make
because
a
he
turn.
has a J-swing garage, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if he's saying he doesn't have the, like, I'm not sure if it's the length, the depth, whatever. We said, well, you know you can expand your garage, right? He's like, well, that's gonna cost me $30,000, da-da-da-da.
And this carport was only 5,000.
But
Yeah,
hypothetically, he could.
yes.
There aren't any other setback restrictions.
Hypothetically, he
He
could
can
build a
get-
carport in the backyard and build a new driveway on the east side of his house and
Put it
get to
in
his
the back.
house.
So there are options,
Right.
hypothetically.
Hypothetically, yes.
Okay.
So the whole deal is this is a really simple case. He's asking for a side yard setback variance. His neighbor is opposed to it. The person that's most impacted in the entire neighborhood is opposed to it. He was denied it at BOA. That's his legal process. And then he didn't appeal to the Board of
District
Appeals.
Court.
They
District
beat him
Court.
up about the fact that he did this without a permit. Because, you know, they have kind of equitable powers. And it's hard to come and ask for equity when you got dirty hands.
Yeah.
So,
So what benefit would it have gone had he appealed it to district court? They would have said, well, what are the rules in Coppell? Well, you
Right.
complied, see ya.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. But that was his due process.
but it
So-
does look nice.
Staff is,
What's that?
But it does.
so staff is recommending denial of his
I almost didn't
request.
see it. And I was like,
Yes.
whoa.
Okay.
Okay.
And you're recommending that primarily based on the fact that he didn't file for his permits, or no?
You know, that's one of the things, but it doesn't meet the requirements. It's like he has other options. He went and built it without a permit, didn't even come and ask. It's right up against his neighbor's house.
Yeah, so he's got his property rights. His neighbor has property rights as well, right? And so in a straight zoning, you're supposed to meet your setbacks. You're supposed to do everything according to the SF-12 district. He didn't do it, you know?
Get him. I don't know if he could he have flipped?
Done it on the other side?
Yeah.
Well, no, it wouldn't fit on the other side of
No,
his
but he
house.
could run the driveway.
He could run the driveway in the backyard, and then put
But
it
it
in
would
the
be
back.
attached to the structure though, right? Or the home?
No.
Oh, it could be separate?
Yeah.
Okay.
If it's attached to the house, then it's part of the house.
Right, so, yeah, because it's the same thing, he doesn't have the 9 feet, he couldn't have
Yeah.
attached it.
But still, the fact of the matter is, in Coppell, carports are not allowed.
Unless you're in a duplex.
Well, they're
or
allowed,
over
but
there.
you have to follow the
Unless you're in
requirements.
Sherwood.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have setbacks.
Yeah,
Well, one of the
So-
councilmen said I didn't move to Coppell to see it, or I didn't move away from Mississippi to bring my carport with me.
So, I'll probably need to exercise the time limitation. I don't know how many folks are gonna speak, but I hear
Oh, yeah.
chatter.
Oh, yeah.
yes,
Crowd's
He's
coming
got
with
the Indians
pitchforks.
all.
And so, presentation for the applicant, there's really no time?
no, but he's got like 5 slides.
Okay.
No, don't shut it.
And
So you have to leave that
I
open.
think,
Yeah.
you might have misspoke last time. I think, doesn't each citizen get 2 minutes, not
It's
3?
It's technically, it was 3 unless we changed it.
We changed,
I know
well,
city
it's-
council's 2.
no, it's 3
Is it
now.
3 now?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's
For us
it
too?
had always been 3, I thought.
No, you haven't changed your rules.
Yeah.
You generally do that at the council.
Okay,
Eddie
okay, I
Brewer.
wanted to make sure everybody's treated the same. And you're always good about keeping them on.
But we had
track.
time limits, we took away the time limits. We used to do 20 for pro, 20 for again.
Oh, that's
They
right.
took that out too.
Okay, so we gotta listen to everybody, which is fine,
Yeah.
thanks.
So he does have a presentation that he wants to give you after my presentation.
You're gonna see pictures of other carports.
Yeah, that's slide 2.
Okay.
Okay, then item 8 on the agenda is Lake Breeze condominiums. So this is very similar to the Lake Breeze Active Adult Community one that we saw a few months back.
Yeah.
So essentially the structure looks almost the same. However, with this rendition, it's condominiums. So condominiums means people buy the units. Instead of the 140 units that they were proposing with the active adult living, it's gonna be 71 units, 2 and 3 bedroom units, 1,300 to 1,600 square feet minimums. So essentially the same thing. It's podium parking underneath. They're gonna have some covered carports out in the parking lot. There's still the Atmos gas line, so they can't do anything there. So we do have some PD conditions with this one. So this is two-pronged, same thing as last time. One is to have the multifamily, and 2 is to change the future land use map, because it doesn't say that this is allowed there at this point in time. So typically MF2 is the base zoning. MF2 says 2 stories. They're trying to go 4 stories, 71 units, somewhere around 58. I think they put a maximum of 60 feet. They're gonna have obviously some parking in the front yard. It's a weird shaped lot. And then something that's in the MF2 says no more than 10% 3-bedroom units, which obviously they're doing over 50% 3-bedroom units.
This is ownership type.
And this is ownership. Well, it's condo, right? So yes, ownership. So you'd own your unit, and then everything outside your walls would be common maintenance. So they'd have to have some kind of HOA assessment and that.
It wouldn't be an HOA, would it? It'd be a condominium association. Thank you.
Yeah.
I can't say the word.
I'll have to change that. But I put HOA just for, I guess,
Right.
Yeah.
the idea.
So if somebody wanted to rent theirs, you know, long-term rental, short-term rental would be subject to the same rules as a house?
Mhm.
Okay.
Except we don't allow STRs in multifamily, so
Oh, okay.
with that base zone, you wouldn't.
They could do a long-term.
You can do a long-term rental. And that, again, is not pertinent to the
It's not
zoning
what?
request. It's not pertinent to the zoning request.
No, it's not, no.
Yeah. So the materials change slightly. They're using some combination of brick, stone, and cement plaster. Also some metal panels for accents. Obviously the DART is going by there, so same type of deal. They were saying, you know, they're gonna put special, it's like three something windows, with some extra insulation on like the north and east side. One of our conditions is gonna be that they'd have to do it for the whole building, not just a couple sides. We've got some renderings that we're gonna look
I
at.
missed the last one. When this came. You guys were there? Okay. I missed it last time. I had missed that meeting.
Well, you got the tour of the when we went to Flower Mound when it was under active 55. Were you with us for that?
No, you did not invite
No,
me.
only you got the invite.
Well,
Oh,
well, aren't you special?
that's right. Glenn and I went. That's right. That was actually pretty nice over there.
I'm just saying,
We wouldn't know.
yeah, we wouldn't know on this
Yeah,
side of
we'll
the
have the whole people will go in a
That was
bus. We'll have
for
a
independent
field trip.
living, not,
Not what we're talking about tonight.
Oh, sorry.
That's right, that's right.
No, we're not going tonight?
Anyway,
No.
anyway.
That was a different deal.
So, in terms of amenities or what they're having, they're just gonna have a multi-purpose room on the first floor. There's a couple residential units on the first floor. On the roof, they're having a walking area.
So you can
Track.
jump off the building as you live there.
Exterior amenities is gonna be
What you
the
pay
Now,
for
now.
it.
exterior amenities are gonna be the same as was previously talked about in terms of dog area, water feature, barbecue grill, butterfly garden, fire pit, flex court.
But it's no longer 55 plus.
No.
But
Although if you are,
they're
you can still
providing this,
there.
they're providing the same amenities for the 55+ as they're now providing for ownership.
Condo owners.
Okay,
I
so
think-
it wasn't necessarily specific
they have
to over
pickleball
55
courts.
last time then, right?
Correct.
Okay, just checking.
Yeah, the flex court was there on this one. I don't think that was on the last one.
It was,
Oh, okay.
yeah.
Is that
So,
pickleball?
Walking trails now.
Landscaping, same deal as last time. The atmos easement, you can't do anything on it other than, I think they're just gonna have grass. They're meeting all the landscaping requirements. Essentially, the last thing is, if you approve it, then also we're approving a change to the future land use map to allow this type of use. What's that?
I said, if you don't change the map, or don't wanna change the map, you can deny it, and never, anything to complain about. What's the impetus for them to change the map?
Just to allow for the, that residential use.
What is it now?
Right now, it's,
Mixed-use community or something?
mixed-use community center
Eh?
with a density of 10 units per acre.
And that was written before DART went through.
Yeah,
So things have changed.
yeah.
Trans-oriented development.
So,
But you have to walk half a mile to get to it.
Well, so in all fairness, Cindy, DART was a component of our comp plan, so that
Yeah.
was taken into account
It was.
with this land use. But this land use has been amended. Before it was a true mixed use, and then we took the residential component out of the mixed use. And so it's mixed use community center, meaning a big mixture of business type uses, or it could have been single family residential. So that was the new category that he's amending from to allow for this urban residential neighborhood.
yeah.
Does that make
So
sense?
the future use plan was okay with single-family houses there by the
Single
DART?
family, single family or
How would you put it in
mixed use
Right.
with mixed business use without the residential. So it was one or the other,
Right.
and that was more for the southwest corner of Southwestern and Beltline that was just developed as industrial. And so
The
this
second
was
floor,
lumped
the
in
third
with that.
floor,
The first floor.
is it, well,
No,
isn't it
third floor is at
elevated?
dark level.
Oh, yeah, third floor, DART,
Okay.
yeah,
And he wants 4, so you go down the train.
yeah.
Well, I was looking at, I mean, you guys probably have a nice aerial photo. I was just driving by. It seems like a lot of it's kind of far away, relatively speaking, to, it's not like it's right there, like the DART.
Well, you're on the
track is
walking
right
path on the roof, you're gonna,
You can wait for people.
there. But you're not right next to it. There's
Try to jump on
150
a little
feet.
space.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you have the building, then you've got parking, and then you've got a little bit more
It's
to
nice.
where the,
Yeah, but at first I was thinking it was
Yeah.
right next to it, but there's a little gap.
yeah.
Second real.
So essentially, with this rendition, we are recommending approval of it. We do have all the conditions pretty similar to last time. I did add one more condition this afternoon that wasn't in your packet because we were working with the fire department and trying to get like the turning radius for the truck worked out. But I guess they had used the wrong turning template, so we're gonna keep working with them. I think we have a fix for it in terms of we might have to adjust either the front driveway or adjust some of the parking in that front area to allow for the truck to come in straight instead of doing a little jog, and so it can make that turn.
You want to add the condition?
It is
I
a,
added it. Yeah.
So do you feel this is highest and best use for this piece of property
I
in
think
long-term, thinking about the vision of the whole area?
I think staff is in favor of this, so.
Reasonable minds.
Mary, how about parking? Is that,
What's
does
that?
it meet all the standards?
Yeah, so with
I'm sorry.
Reasonable minds can.
this rendition, they've cut the amount of units in half, they're meeting all the parking requirements. They actually have extra parking. So when we have to do this adjustment for the fire lane and stuff, even if we cut out some parking, they'll still meet the requirements.
Okay.
Is there a condition in the PD that it remain a condo? Because when he ain't selling any of these, then it's gonna be an apartment.
We can add that.
If we can add that. I was unsure
Versus
if we
what,
could add.
changed into an office?
No, it changed into just a
Rental.
rental
If
apartment.
they can't sell any of these condos, what's their
It's
backup
owner
plan?
occupied, that would be,
Can we do that legally?
you can do anything you want to legally until the judge tells me I can't.
Okay.
So if you guys want to make that condition,
Or you might ask him to consider it, you know, because
I
he
mean,
might
I
already
don't-
put it in his covenants, or in his,
I don't want it
condos.
to turn into an apartment. To me, there's a difference between a condominium. I mean, I understand, a condominium owner may rent it,
Yeah.
but I don't want the building to turn into that. No, 'cause-
Yeah, it'd be an apartment complex.
I mean,
Yeah.
even in sunny South Padre Island, condominiums that have some, I mean, it's not like you got an ocean view here, come on. So, I mean, I've seen a lot of them turn into, that whole corridor on Fair Oaks in Dallas. Those were all condominiums back in the late 70s and early 80s. And they're all apartments now.
all owned by one owner that just rents them out? Is that what
No.
happens?
No, the whole thing is decondoized and now they're just apartments.
Matt, we have Colonial.
Right, yeah, we have an example of that, some townhomes that went on Colonial and
I don't care,
Independence.
I just want someone to ask questions so we can answer those. I don't like to
That's
be
his way
lied,
of
I don't
getting his
like to be
question
lied
asked.
to. Because I don't want you to buy something, go buy it, and then turn around and bait and switch on us. I just want to see what he says.
I'll let you guys ask that question.
Easy enough.
You brought it up.
I didn't bring it up. You brought it
I
up.
brought it up, I'll ask a question.
All right, and then item 9, you guys have anything else? Item 9, Mr. Cole Baker.
I can do this one. You want me to do it for you? Sure, Bob can do it. All right, and the reason is, this is on 254
Just
Winding
why you're
Hill.
here?
Yeah, well, maybe. And this property, there was a house fire and completely destroyed the house. And I was involved in that, and that's why I know about it. And when the house was constructed, the actual pad site is at curb level, and our current subdivision ordinance requires it to be 12 inches above curb level. And so they don't want to regrade. Engineering's looked at this and done their due diligence and said there's with the pad site where it is, we don't have a drainage issue, we don't have a flooding issue, there's no record of that property ever flooding. And so, the property's been sold to a new owner and they want to build a house on it. And they don't want to, the engineering and everything would take to regrade it and everything, it's no value to us from an engineering standpoint. So you have now been delegated the responsibility to waive subdivision requirements, and you have it within your authority to do so. And so they've asked that we waive that 12-inch above curb level to curb level. I wrote the resolution, so it couldn't be no less than 1 inch below the curb level, just because of topography.
And they're planning on using the same footprint, or are they gonna add
Yeah.
to it, or?
I think basically the same slab.
That's what it sounds like.
Yeah.
Talking to them, I believe the owner will be here to answer questions. And also of note is that this slab is consistent with the other slabs in the area, so if it were to be raised up a foot above, it would.
Yeah, it was built,
Higher than that.
I think these homes were built in '84 and '85.
But it's, the slab is the existing slab from the house that burned down?
Yeah. Yeah, the fire started at the pool equipment, caught the fence on fire, and then got to the eave.
That sucks.
Yeah. And then there was a wall there.
Is that the house kind of behind Einstein Bagels, that one?
Now, this is in Winding Hollow, Sandy Lake, right there it's at the elbow of Winding Hollow, on the far north end.
Okay.
Yeah, right there on that
We've
elbow.
had, unfortunately, a few house fires over the years.
Yeah, we have.
Okay.
I do remember that one though. In Summer Place.
Okay.
Do we want to hit
Just remember it was a
council
bad kid.
action? Any updates?
Oh,
Yeah, so council updates, we took Turnberry, the STR, that was approved. 300 Freeport, the industrial building by the cemetery, that was approved. And then,
you know, it was built over there, the media, the old
Oh,
media
yeah.
site.
Oh, it did?
yeah,
Interesting. Okay.
and then the third one was
Victory.
Victory,
Yeah.
Coppell, Victory Coppell, that was approved as well.
The STR, that was the one.
134 Turnberry.
Yeah, the
Coppell
one
Greens.
in the greens?
Yeah. Okay, so they did approve.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. What was the vote on that?
6-1. No, 5-1 because Bijou was,
I had abstained.
had to abstain.
Come on, Kohler's newsletter talked all about that.
Oh, I didn't
Jim
see
voted
it.
against
I
it.
didn't see it.
Jim owned.
Because he didn't want any rest of it.
Okay.
Or did you?
Which is fine.
No, no, he feels, that's right.
All right, so quick break before we start up.
Yeah, that's right.
Yes.
So what? All righty. The time is 6:42, and we're convening back into general session. Prior to coming up before you, we're reviewing the cases as part of our pre-session, but moving on the agenda here, I guess I should first acknowledge, welcome back to our returning commissioners, Cindy, Kent, and Freddie, for the reappointment to the Planning and Zoning Commission. Item 4 on the agenda is citizens' appearance. Is there anybody who's here to speak on any item not on the agenda? Okay. Otherwise, hopefully you've had a chance to sign this, so we have you for the record there. Okay, with that, were there any comments, Phoebe, received electronically? Okay. Okay. Then moving on, item 5 is approval of the October 17th meeting minutes. Is there a motion by the commission? Other comments, or is there a motion by the commission?
I move to approve.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Haveman. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a second by Commissioner Bishop. Phoebe, would you call the roll, please?
All right, please respond by saying A or nay as I call your name. Commissioner Blankenship.
I abstain.
Chairman Haas.
Aye.
Commissioner Haveman.
Aye.
And Commissioner Bishop.
Aye.
All in favor, none opposed, the motion carries.
Okay, item 6 on the agenda is the approval of the October 24th joint meeting with the Planning and Zoning Commission, the Ford Board, and the Smart City Board. Had a great meeting. Is there any comments or discussion on those meeting minutes?
Chairman, I move to approve.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Haveman. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, Commissioner Bishop. Phoebe, would you call the roll, please?
All right, please respond by saying A or nay as I call your name. Commissioner Blankenship.
Aye.
Chairman Haas.
Aye.
Commissioner Haveman.
Aye.
And Commissioner Bishop.
Aye.
All in favor, none opposed, motion carries.
Okay, very good. So before we get into item 7, the public hearing regarding the Arbor Brook Lane, on the citizens, folks that are here to speak for or against, you all will have 3 minutes to speak. Phoebe will have the clock. She'll let you know when you have about a minute or so left. So if we could keep to the point so we can keep moving tonight. We got a lot of folks here to talk on this item. But with that, we will open item 7, a public hearing. To consider approval of PD-319-SF-12, Lot 18, Block 4, North Lake Woodlands, Number 3, a zoning change request from Single Family 12 to Plan Development 319, Single Family 12, to approve an existing carport encroaching on the required setback, side yard setback located at 552 Arbrook Lane at the request of Derek Bonneau, the property owner. We have a staff presentation by Ms. Mary Prone Boswell. Mary?
Good evening, Chairman, Commissioners. Item 7 on your agenda is a public hearing. So this property is part of the North Lake Woodlands subdivision and has SF-12 zoning, which is it's straight SF-12 zoning. There's no PD on this in this subdivision currently. The home was constructed back in 1978, and the applicant purchased the home in 2019. So, as I said, it's straight SF-12 zoning. What does that mean? Essentially that there's a minimum lot size, 12,000 square feet. This particular lot has over 17,000 square feet. There's minimum lot house size for SF-12, as in with all our single-family zonings. The minimum house size is 1,800 square feet. This one is 2,477 square foot house. Also in the zoning, there's setback requirements, front, rear, and side setbacks. So with the side yard setbacks, it's 10% of the lot width. This particular lot is roughly 92 feet at the front property line, which means it has a minimum 9-foot side yard setback. The particular house also has 2 existing enclosed parking spaces or garage, and a maximum 35% lot coverage for main and accessory buildings for SF-12. So as I mentioned, the applicant purchased the property in 2019. The carport and some other items were constructed sometime between May of 22 and October 7th of 2022, without the benefit of permits or inspections. Essentially, code compliance was called, went out to the site, and started a case. So what you're here looking at on the screen here is just some aerials prior, so January of 2022, and then a more current aerial showing that there was construction done after that time. So when code compliance went out there, several items were discovered. There was a deck extension done, a canopy added, pergola, a covered patio, and a carport. What we're here tonight to discuss is the carport. So the zoning ordinance basically states that, that governs requirements for garages and carports, states that garages and carports that are 150 square feet in area or more shall observe the following regulations. And this particular carport is about 180 square feet. There's minimum property line setbacks, as I mentioned before, the same minimum setback required for the main structure, unless the garage or carport has an alley access, which this does not. So with this, like I mentioned before, requires a minimum 9-foot side yard setback. And it has to be 10 feet from the main structure on the adjacent property. So the carport was constructed. It's essentially about 9 inches from the property line and not 9 feet. The owner applied for a building permit for the property on August 28th, 2023, that pertained to the carport and other work items that were already constructed. Stated earlier, this constructed carport does not meet the requirements, and when it was applied for after construction was denied by staff. So here we're looking at the front of the house, and to the left you see circled in yellow where the carport is. It's just beyond the basketball net. So the applicant pursued a variance from the Board of Adjustment on September 5th, 2024 to allow for the carport to remain in its current location. The carport, as I said, sits roughly on the property line with the adjacent property at 548 Arborbrook Lane. The Board of Adjustment listened to this case and decides their case is based on hardship. So hardship cannot be self-created. At the Board of Adjustment hearing, the adjacent neighbor who was impacted by the carport's location opposed the request and is also opposing the requested PD tonight. She was unable to be here, but you did receive a letter essentially stating her views on that. So the Board of Adjustment denied the request as there was no hardship found and the applicant chose not to appeal the request to district court. The applicant then decided to request a variance through the PD process, which is why it requires a public hearing at the Planning and Zoning Commission and City Council. So this is part 1 of the process. This exhibit essentially shows you some of the information from the carport that was obtained after the fact. The applicant hired an engineer to essentially write a letter about the construction of the carport after the fact. The construction elevations show that it's constructed of steel tubing, has steel members across the roof and wood slats along the roof and property line side and the one of the other sides. It's anchored into the driveway from a steel plate with bolts. The roof is angled with one end of the carport being 7 feet 8 inches, the other end reaching 8 feet 9 inches. There are 3 poles on the passenger side of the carport and a 2-foot 10-inch overhang at the entrance. The roof itself does not overhang along the sides of the structure. Staff like I said, did receive a letter from the engineer saying that it complies with conventional engineering and construction standards. So because this is a public hearing, state law requires us to send notices out to people within 200 feet, which we did. There was 20 notices. And the city of Coppell also sends out notices to residents or property owners within 800 feet. So we sent out an additional 92 courtesy notices. We did receive 7 responses from those courtesy note or response within 200 feet. The affected neighbor was in opposition, and then 6 others were in favor. So when you look on the map, the gray property outlined in red is 552 Arborbrook, the subject property. The red one is the neighbor in opposition. So that blue area is the 200 feet, and the yellow is the 800 feet. So we did receive additional responses outside of the 200 feet with 1 in opposition. So staff is recommending denial of this request. If the Planning and Zoning Commission decides to recommend approval of the request, staff would request that the following PD conditions apply. 1, to allow the carport where it exists and that it cannot be expanded. Essentially, that is the end of my presentation. The applicant is here and does have a presentation that he would like to give you.
Okay, very good. Thank you much, Mary. Any questions of staff by the commission? Okay, I do have just a clarification question.
Yeah.
So in addition to the carport, there were other things going on at the same time? The deck, pergola, all that?
Correct. So between the time that the property was purchased to the time that staff went out there to check on the carport issue, there were other things that were constructed as well. And so he did come in for a building permit application after the fact for those items.
Okay. Thank you. All righty, is the applicant here to present the case? If I could get your name and address for the record.
My name is Derek Pinot. Mary, is that slideshow?
Just tell me click and I'll
Awesome.
change it for you.
My name is Derek Pinot. Thank you guys so much for being here tonight. This is my family, and I really appreciate all of y'all for taking a night out of your busy weeks to come talk about a carport. I know y'all have way more important things to do than this, so thank you very much. If you would have told me, it was almost 2 years ago, or a year and a half ago, that when I received that letter in the mail that essentially was telling me I had to tear down my carport, that it would turn out to be a blessing in disguise, I would say you're crazy. But this really has been a blessing in disguise. Number one, because I've met all of these incredible people in my neighborhood who have shown unbelievable support and made our family feel so loved. So thank you guys so much for being here tonight and for just all of your support. But also, I've met amazing people like Mary, Mark, Mindy, Steve, Vandana. So we appreciate you guys, and I want us to give these guys a round of applause because they serve our amazing city. I'm sure y'all don't get enough applause in what you do, so thank you. We're here tonight to talk about a carport. How do we get here? Well, in 2019, my wife and I, we grew up in Coppell. We wanted to move back to the town we grew up in, raise our kids. We bought this house, and our first time going to pull our cars into the garage, we realized that both of our vehicles do not fit into our 2-car garage. So I have a truck, my wife has a van. When you add those up, there's 3 inches of clearance, and because of the angle, and I'll show it to you in a little bit, and what you have to pull into the garage, you cannot get that second vehicle into the garage. That's what started this whole thing. So I began to park in the driveway. A storm comes rolling in, you're frantically looking for a covered parking space. In the hot summer months, your kids get in the car, the seats are blistering hot, and there's just all sorts of damage that you want to protect your vehicle from. We also have our our son who's getting ready to drive this next year, 3 other kids who are going to be close behind them. Our streets are very narrow. So for all these reasons, we had a problem on our hands. And I began to notice, if you can go to the next one, Mary, that around our neighborhood, there were all these carports, garages, like secondary garages. And you'll notice, I didn't realize this at the time, but I realize it now, that they're all pretty much coming up to their property line. So when I saw that, I was like, that's a great idea. I told my wife, we called a friend, and we had already asked him about doing some remodel work. We had a deck that was falling apart. We had some other things that needed to be repaired, and we had asked him to do some work. And so we asked him if he would build this carport. We know nothing about construction. He took care of everything, and it was done. And it was beautiful. All of our neighbors that walked by, like, oh my gosh, your home looks beautiful. We love what you've done with it. It's great for the street. It's great for the neighborhood. Love the carport. About a year later, I received the letter in the mail that told me that it had come to the city's attention that we had done work without pulling permits. So I called my friend. He confirms that. So it is what it is. We show up the next morning. I meet with Vandana and Mr. Steve over here and say, is there anything we can do to make this right? And they were super gracious and allowed me to pull for permits. But they said, you can't pull for a permit for this carport because it's in this restriction zone, this setback zone. So to that I said, what can we do? They suggested the only thing you really can do is file for a variance. So we did. We came up here. It was denied. I was asked to show hardship. How many of you guys know what hardship is? I didn't. And so the only thing I knew to say was the damage that could potentially be done to my car. But that was obviously not enough proof or reason for hardship. So it was denied. So the next day, still trying to just find a solution forward, I began to ask questions, and I began to just reach out to different members of the city. Spoke with several different city council members who told me about 2020 or 2022 about a similar case in Sherwood Park where there had been homes that had carports, and the city, they brought it before planning and zoning, and it was decided to rezone that neighborhood as a planned development to lift those certain setback restrictions. And these city council members, they heard my story, they understood where I was coming from, and they said, that's what we would suggest you to do. And so I immediately got in touch with Mindy and Mary and Matt, and that's where, led us here tonight. Since then, I've learned so much. I feel like, maybe I'll become an attorney, or maybe I'll join the city council board, but I've learned a lot. Several things I've learned is, number one, why does that code exist? Well, it exists for several reasons. One, it exists to not have somebody build a home or a structure right on your property. And who in this room wants somebody to build a huge structure right on their property? None of us. To that argument, if you can go to the next, thank you. To that argument, this is my carport, and from my neighbor's perspective, the roof is a part of the fence. My fence was falling apart. We rebuilt the fence, and we added the steel structure to be able to support a steel roof. We dropped that steel beam. If the city ends up making me take it down, I still have to have a fence. That fence is underneath the limited restrictions. So when I lift that lid of the carport off, my neighbor's view will not change. She's still looking at a fence. So the view's not going to change regardless. My car is going to be parked there regardless. It was parked there before the carport. It'll be parked there after the carport. I've heard about the reason of this setback zone for safety. What if there's a fire hazard? Well, this is made out of steel. This is no more fire hazard than our fences, which are on our property line. And my truck, again, is going to be parked in this exact same space regardless. It's the only space I can park it. Another argument from my neighbor was that it was encroaching on our property line. If you can go to the next slide. So that's just showing you an aerial view that the only place I could put this carport was in the very end of my driveway. You go to the next slide. So this is looking down our property line. This is her fence to the left, and then that's my carport to the right. That stuff you see that's leaning over between the two is her fence, which is falling apart and falls apart all the way down. I offered, when we were building all this, to help support some of that for them, and we actually, from a shed in our backyard, helped support their fence to keep it lifted for them. But there's still sections that are falling down. But my carport is in no way hanging past my property line. Another point that she brought up was property value. We searched for comps. We tried to find something that could argue one way or the other. Since building the carport, her property value's gone up, my property value's gone up. Our neighbors across the street sold their home. The people that bought that house that looks at my carport, they signed this petition to support this rezoning to keep the carport. I'll explain that later. So there's no proof that it's done any damage to property value. And so, anyways, I learned all these things, and then I talked with the city council, and they told me about Sherwood. If you can keep going, Mary. Okay, keep going. Okay. Oh, this is a great story. So 2 weeks or few weeks after we built the carport, that giant tree branch fell on top of it and saved my truck from untold damage. So again, when I say tree damage, we live in a very wooded area. There's all sorts of things like this that happen when storms hit. And so again, I can't fit both cars in my garage. I'm trying to protect my second car. Okay, if you go to the next slide. So this is Sherwood Park. These are some examples of some of the carports that are in this neighborhood here in Coppell. As you can see, they're in the same restriction zone. The setback is right on the property line. These are duplexes. It comes right up to their neighbor's property line. It also is in a setback restricted area at the alley. But again, the city planning and zoning back in 2022 made the decision based on hardship to rezone this as a planned development and allow for these carports to exist. So I asked the planning department what was the hardship, and the hardship was that these are one-car garage homes, and the city felt they needed 2 covered parking spaces. If you can go to the next video, Mary, and then hit play. So this is a video to show you guys, if it plays. Hit space bar again, or whatever you need to do, Mary. Thank you so much. So this shows you a view of trying to park into our garage. Again, it's a 2-car parking garage on paper, but you're about to see, because of the angle, I mean, you gotta cram that car in all the way over there, and then because of the angle in which I have to come in at, because of the typography of our lot, I cannot get my truck in, and you'll see it here, right there. And believe me, I tried. And so the video can continue to play. You get the point. So for the same reason that the city rezoned Sherwood, I'm asking to please rezone not our neighborhood, but just our property as a planned development to lift that restriction and allow our carport to remain there so we can have a second covered parking space. I went to our neighbors, and if you can go to the next slide, Mary, and asked them to sign a petition. You'll notice if you go to the next slide, in this petition, I use certain language asking them to not only support the rezoning of my home under these conditions, which I'll list in just a second, but also to support the rezoning for our entire neighborhood. Now, I want to be clear, I'm not asking for our neighborhood to be rezoned. I put this language in the petition because I wanted to show the P&Z and the city councilmen that they weren't just doing me a favor. We ended up getting over 115 signatures. That's individual homes. And I just wanted y'all to know it wasn't just them going, yeah, we want to do you a favor. I wanted you to see that under these conditions, they support this rezoning, even if it was a property right next door to them. But again, I want to be clear. I'm not asking to rezone the entire neighborhood. So the conditions are this. The carport can be built up to the property line only if on a pre-existing driveway and does not hang over their neighbor's property line. The carport must meet city requirements for size and materials. It must be built recessed from the construction setback, recessed from the main house structure. So it can't be in front of the house. And then the carport must be secured to the concrete. The carport plans must be signed and sealed by a licensed registered structural engineer. Obviously, we want these things to be built right. And then if you go to the next slide, and this is a map of our neighborhood. The section in green is our neighborhood, where we got over 75% of our neighbors' support. The section in red, it's what feels like our neighborhood. I never realized how ginormous North Lake Woodlands is. And we got over 50% of that portion, and then even more signatures in the surrounding areas. So all that to be said, I'm here with the support of all of these amazing people, all of those amazing people who couldn't be here tonight, to just humbly ask for you guys to do for us and our family what y'all did for Sherwood back in 2022, to rezone our home as a planned development, to lift that restriction, allow our carport, which the neighborhood loves it, it's beautiful, it's not a safety hazard, it's not hanging over my neighbor's property. If I have to take the roof off, it's the same view from my neighbor, and now I'm back to being exposed to the elements. I feel like I get the code. I understand the code now more than ever. But I think there are circumstances sometimes where the code just needs to be reconsidered, which is why we have these processes, and it's why we're thankful for you guys. And so I'm just hoping you'll take all these circumstances into consideration and rezone our property. Thank you guys, and thank you guys.
All
That's all I
right,
got.
thank you much. Are there any questions of the applicant by the commission? Kent?
Is it Bonet, Mr. Bonet, is that how you say that?
Bonneau.
Bonneau, thank you. Sir, the next-door neighbor
Yes, sir.
who has property rights as well,
Yes.
I didn't hear you speak about her main objections to
Okay.
this. Could you please tell us what you think that is?
Of the main objections that I've been made aware of through the variance process, there was the issue of it coming up to a property line. So I addressed that, correct?
Yes, you did,
Okay.
yes.
And then there was the issue of it being an eyesore. I think I've proven that's not the overall opinion from our neighborhood. There was the issue of she showed a photo of some stuff that she sent in between her fence and my carport, and said this stuff was on her property. We have a little dog. I had set some stuff up there to stop our dog from getting out. I did not realize that was on her property, so I've since removed that. And the other thing was property value. She said she feels this is going to hinder their property value, and that's why I pulled comps, just to show that there's absolutely zero evidence to support that.
Right.
Was there any other objections?
So, other than those points, you did make those points, thank
Mm-hmm.
you for that. Is there anything else that you're aware of that would cause her to have consternation regarding
No,
the
sir.
improvement?
No, sir. It's sloped toward our backyard where it runs into a drainage system, so there's no water runoff onto a property. And as I mentioned, like, the frustrating part about it for me, and just to be clear, I want to be as respectful and honoring to our neighbor as I can be. If we lift the roof off of this thing, it doesn't change her viewpoint of what she's going to be looking at. She's still going to be looking at the same fence. My car is still going to be parked in the same spot. So I just don't see why this is creating any hardship for her, whether the roof's there or it's not there.
Right, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions of the applicant? Okay, thank you much. We'll reserve the right to come back to you.
Thank you.
All right, so I got a list of folks who've signed up to speak. I'll just kind of go down the list, and you'll have 3 minutes to speak. You can use up to 3 minutes. Please to kind of keep your comments to the point and succinct. We're starting off with Laura Swaldy, to be followed by Stan Friend and Robin Broderick. And Phoebe, you'll have the clock. Okay.
Okay. Oh, there you go. All right. Hi. How are y'all? I'm going to read this, so I'll try and read it a little slow. So.
And
if
we could get your name and address for the record.
Yeah, I'm Laura Swaldy, and 525 Arbor Lane.
Okay.
Okay. Good evening, members of the City Council and fellow residents. My name is Laura Swaldy. I have proudly called Coppell home for 25 years. As a builder, I've constructed 7 homes in this neighborhood alone, and I have witnessed firsthand the unique character and challenges we face in this historic neighborhood. I am here today to support neighbors Megan and Derek in their request to retain their freestanding garage port, which serves as a critical functional purpose for their family. The value that the structure provides is protection for their vehicle from harsh Texas weather. It shields the car for intense sun, unexpected hailstorms, and potential weather-related damage, as y'all saw with the tree falling. The garage port offers a sheltered space for their children. It provides a safe area where they can enter and exit vehicles without exposure to rain or extreme temperatures. It's not just an aesthetic addition, but a practical solution that enhances family safety and convenience. Throughout my years here, I have observed various code violations in this neighborhood, including drainage issues, which were on my own property that I bought previously, building setback discrepancies, and fencing challenges. These are not uncommon in our historic neighborhood, and this garage port is just another example of such exceptions. I understand there's a concern from the adjacent neighbor regarding access to a wooden fence, among other things. However, Derek has assured her and you and us that he is willing to provide access whenever needed.
1 minute remaining.
I believe him. This demonstrates his commitment to maintaining good community relations and shows that he is a really great neighbor. He even installed a large ball netting to prevent balls from entering her yard. This indicates his proactive approach in addressing potential concerns. In conclusion, I respectfully urge the City of Coppell to consider these points and make an exception to allow Megan and Derek to keep their garage port in place. And it represents a practical solution for their family's needs and reflects the spirit of cooperation and understanding that defines our neighborhood. We have a friendly neighborhood, kind neighbors, and a beautiful city and community. And at its core, the issue is not solely about code enforcement. It is about fostering a sense of community and being good neighbors to one another. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you very much.
You bet. And one thing I did want to say real quick is in regard to him asking for
Your time's
rezoning
expired.
for the neighborhood, I'd like it for the whole, I'd like it for the whole neighborhood.
So that's not part of this application.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
All righty, Stan Friend, followed by Robin Broderick and Jason Moore. Uh-oh. Our screens.
Thank you. My name is Stan Friend, and I live at 411 Rolling Hills Circle here in Coppell. I've been a resident here for 12 years. The area is zoned SF12, and so this is in violation of the SF12 zoning. There was a application to the Zoning Board of Adjustment. They ruled against this application. The whole purpose of the Board of Adjustment is to make reasonable evaluations for non-conforming issues and reasonable judgments. The Board of Adjustment has already gone through the various arguments that we're talking about and ruled not in favor of it. A planned development is intended to for large areas, typically 5 acres or more, and involves multiple addresses. Typically, a planned development involves a neighborhood, it evolves into a neighborhood in its own right and may involve an owners association and include amenities such as a playground. A planned development is not a single address. A planned development requires permitting prior to construction. It is not an unplanned redevelopment. A planned development involves multiple investors, all of which agree with the development as confirmed by their investment. One of the purposes of the P&Z is to maintain property values for the existing investors. Another purpose is to create and maintain the rules for the tax base. A violation of the rules leads to erosion of the property values in the tax base. If the P&Z approves this request, it will be an outright denial of the purpose, responsibility, and authority of the Board of Adjustment.
You have 1 minute remaining.
I request that you deny this application. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Robin Broderick, then Jason Moore, then Claudio Campos.
Good evening. First of all, thank you for your service. My dad was on P&Z board in Lubbock. Oh, yes, I'll give you that forever, and I really do appreciate what you do. My name is Robin Broderick. I live at 529 Lee Valley. I have been a Coppell resident. I think I probably went here for 39 years, and I've lived in North Lake Woodlands for 30 of those said years. I am here to speak on behalf of Megan and Derek Bonneau and the carport that is into question. I would like to highlight several factors that merit consideration. It is a little redundant. The first two people were, I feel like I'm saying the same thing that they did, but I really do feel strongly about it. The carport structure blends seamlessly with the architecture of their home. I know this to be true because I took it upon myself to garner 30 to 40 signatures of the hundreds that were gathered for the petition process. Every person I spoke to commented on how wonderful their remodel was, and majority of them did not even realize there was a carport. And by the way, they've done a fantastic job with that remodel, which as a resident, I appreciate as it continues to keep our neighborhood relevant for the real estate market and for Coppell as a whole. The Bonneau's property also has a unique characteristic that limits placement of a carport. The existing structure makes it challenging to comply with standard setback requirements. But the carport does not impede light, air, or access to the neighboring property. The primary intent, of my understanding, of setback requirements is to ensure safety, privacy, and the aesthetic harmony. 1 minute remaining. Okay, thank you. In this instance, the carport maintains those objectives while accommodating the practical needs of the Bonneau family. In light of these considerations, I respectfully request that the Planning and Zoning Board grant the zoning change and allow the carport to remain as is. This decision would allow the Bonneau's respectful spirit in which this process has taken place. They are an amazing, kind, and generous family that I, for one, am happy to support for this reasonable request. Thank you for your time.
Great. Thank you very much. Jason Moore, followed by Claudio Campos and Kelly Fishpaw.
Thank you. Jason Moore, I live at 444 Hidden Valley, just on the other side of North Lake Woodlands. I just said it. My name is Jason Moore. So I'll speak from a different perspective. I've been a real estate agent for 15 years, and I own the 2415 brokerage here in Coppell. So local, My entire life revolves around Denton Tap. If you see me off of there, I don't know what's going on. I'm either going to home or going to the church or going to whatever, my office right there. And so I can kind of speak, I think, with some professionalism in terms of just the real estate market as a whole. I sell a good amount of homes here in Coppell, and then also a lot of our agents do as well. So I'm in a management position, obviously, there over the agents that we have. We have 38 at our brokerage. If you ever go eat at JMX, come say hi to us. We'll be happy to talk to you. I know a big question that obviously has come up raises the question of what does this do to my property value? Well, hey, I have an answer for you. This is what I do for a living. I can tell you right now, I've seen Arborbrook. I've seen the Minnows house. I live in that neighborhood. I walk in that neighborhood. Some of our best friends live over there. I've talked to several of them. Man, this house, I could sell this house tomorrow. I could sell this house tonight. I could list it tonight with a single picture and probably get it sold. They've done an amazing job. North Lake Woodlands is one of the most desired neighborhoods in all of Coppell. The average days on market is a joke. We go over value. So if this happened, 2 years ago, based off some of these allegations, it should have tanked property values, all these carports. Well, it's just not the case. And so there would absolutely still be a ton of interest in these properties. I have zero to reason to believe that a carport would ever be an issue. In fact, I would argue it adds a value. One of the things that we get a lot of questions on in Coppell and a lot of frustration is a lot of people don't like HOAs. A lot of people enjoy doing what they want to their house within reason. And obviously Coppell as a whole, as a community, we have done an incredible job of building a culture where there's a lot of pride and ownership.
1 minute remaining.
1 minute. And so it's just not something that people take advantage of or take for granted. And so that's why you see so much effort and so much care put into creating good properties. And that's why our values have skyrocketed. We've all felt it on our tax bill. I know I have. You almost dread opening that piece of mail, but you're doing it. It's good. And it's for a reason. I can say too, as someone who has 2 kids, me and my wife have conversations all the time. Where are we going to park cars? What are we going to do? How are we going to keep from hail hitting 3 cars or 4 cars? And that's something they're going to have to deal with here in just a couple of years. So this blends effortlessly in with their property. And so I think it's a bit of a stretch, and I think we're setting a weird precedent. If we start to let maybe a scorned neighbor kind of throw a red flag at you, or some kind of situation where you're adding something of value, you're taking something great and you're making it better, and now somebody can kind of call you out and drag you through this process. And so I've had conversations with a ton of people when the neighborhood unanimously has been seen as something positive. I support this rezoning. Thank you.
Okay, my name is Claudio Campos. I live in 555 Arborbrook Lane, right across the street from Derek House. I am an architect, and I am in favor of the proposition that he is requesting. I fully remodeled my home a couple of years ago, and I will never be able to do it if I will bought this house in a homeowner association. It's quite contemporary. I have metal in my walls and things like that. So I understand also as an architect that you have regulation, right? So not everybody can do whatever they want to do. In this case, we have those setbacks. But there are some cases like this one that are reasonable to ask for, for a new requirement for what he did in terms of that he already built it, is there, is actually looks good. The materials that has been built and has been signed by engineer are decent and doesn't lower the property value for him and lower the value for the neighbor's property. I live across the street, so I see that carport every day. It doesn't bother me at all. It's far from the setback of the house, so actually it's everything has been done quite decently. That's why I want to speak to you guys, because this is an exception to the rules, and sometimes, there are exceptions that need to be accepted. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Kelly Fishpaw, David Zermott. I didn't catch that. I'm sorry about that. And then it'll be Sarah Hicks after that.
Hi. Kelly Fishpaw. My husband and I live at 413 Meadow Creek Road, just down the street from Derek and Megan. Our neighborhood is old, the late 70s. Maybe not everyone knows that, with a uniqueness that I love to see on my walks. The homes are not the same style or even size. Many are tear downs, some have additions, just like mine, others remodel like the Bonneaus. If you only did an addition and a remodel, you're stuck with the garages that were built in the 70s, which are super small. We too have a 2-car garage on paper, but you can't park any of the new larger cars that are sold in there. Ours doesn't even get through the garage door. When the Bonneaus completed their exterior remodel, it looked beautiful. They brought back mid-century modern with clean lines, a dark home contrasted with the warm wood and a Palm Desert vibe. The carport they built seemed like it was always part of the house, seamlessly integrated in the design. It in no way detracts from the property or our neighborhood. When I read they were asked to take it down, I asked questions, and I too learned about the setback code. I understand the code and why it exists. However, this is a bit different to me. Much like our neighborhood, where it seems like exceptions exist everywhere, as others have pointed out. For the Bonneaus, an exception or this zoning change is logical. The carport is on their driveway, it blends in with their fence, it's the same height. So from the neighbor's point of view, it's as if nothing blocks their view. In addition, it's made of steel, posing no fire hazard. I would have no problem with this structure were they my direct neighbor, especially if that's where they park their car. I gladly signed the petition, and I came to speak tonight in support of rezoning, allowing the Bonneaus to keep the carport as is.
1 minute remaining.
The property is beautiful, poses no issues with views or safety, and I'm grateful to live in a place where we can make reasonable requests of government regulations. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Zermuller, maybe I got it right out.
Getting closer.
Yeah.
David Von Zermeulen, right?
All
At
right.
301 Forest Crest.
Something to do with the writing here.
Absolutely.
All right.
I've been a resident of Coppell since 1995. I've raised 4 boys. And Mary, I don't remember hearing you say that the evaluation by the city employees deemed it a safety hazard. I don't remember hearing any of that. So for me, it's safety. If it's not posing a safety hazard to be blown over or to damage the neighbor's home next door, I would like to personally thank Derek for not parking on the street. Because if you have seen our streets, if you can't park side by side, then nothing can go down the center of the street. So I really appreciate him going the extra mile to get his car off of the street, because we try to do the same thing for us. And I think that video was the most compelling thing of trying to park. As you can see, he can't. So I'm in favor of allowing an exception. I'm a rule follower. I know what the permitting process looks like and the zoning, and I understand the rules, and I'm not here saying that one homeowner's rights are more important than another's. I do believe that the Planning and Zoning Committee can look at this and say, of all the objections that a neighbor might present, safety being first and foremost for everybody, not only his family, her property as well, but also the neighborhood and getting his car off the street. And I think that it meets the requirements of an exemption. So that's all I got. Thank you
very much. Sarah Hicks, then Camille Perryman, then Josh, oh boy, Josh R. after that. All right.
Hi, I'm Sarah Hicks. I'm the owner of 564 Arborbrook Lane. I am within the 200-foot boundary that was shown earlier. I'm here to support the zoning change. And I'll just be brief. The Bonneaus have been very invested in our neighborhood overall, and that's why you see such resounding support for them here today, because they're not here to come in and add a feature and flip a home. They're here to and worry about the consequences as somebody else or some other buddy's problem. Derek has been really trying to do as much as possible as soon as he became aware of this issue. His integrity is 100% intact, and they're invested in our neighborhood overall in terms of, I just got to tell you what kind of neighbors they are. Their straight line winds came through our neighborhood, and with our large trees, we were some of the neighborhoods that were really impacted. Derek got together other men to come around and help everybody. They had chainsaws, and they were there to help you clean up your mess when no one else was there, or just to be an extra set of hands. They're the type of neighbors that you want. They are investing in the neighborhood, not just their own property. And I couldn't imagine having this hearing and not being here to show you my support. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you very much. Camille Penniman, Josh R., and then Ryan Breidenbach.
Hi, Camille Penniman. I live at 559 Arborbrook Lane, across the street from the Bonneaus. I'm going to echo what a lot of people have already said. Their home is beautiful, immaculately maintained. The updates that they've done have certainly increased not only their property values, but I feel like the property values of all of us in the neighborhood and in the city in general. The carport itself matches that aesthetic and is also maintained super well. And it's not structurally, you've seen the pictures, it's not visually, it doesn't impair or, structurally impose on the neighbor. And I think, not to just belabor what everybody else has said, but I'm going to follow what Sarah said, which is, I know it probably has no bearing in your decision, but I just want to echo that the Bonneaus are fabulous neighbors. They're incredibly kind and respectful. I think what they've done for this process and how they've rallied all of us shows you their respect for the process and their desire to get what is, quite obviously a very reasonable exception. So, thank you.
Thank you very much. Josh R. Rauschenbrew. You guys you read this. All right, Mr. Josh, is Josh here? He stepped out. Okay. For the record, he signed in as in favor of the proposed application. Ryan Breidenbach? He left. Okay, he stepped out. For the record, he is in favor of the proposed application. John Yasis? 553. Golly, I can't even read the street name. Okay. No Josh? No Johns, I'm sorry, John Yases? Okay. This person signed in favor of the proposed application. Rebecca Visconti? Hey, you are. Oh, you didn't? Oh, you didn't? We don't bite. We don't bite. Okay, we don't bite. And for the record, she is in favor. But maybe your daughter might want to speak. All righty, thank you. Clint Riley on Carter Drive. Here we go. Followed by Shane Pope and Jordy Bernhardt.
Good afternoon, folks. Clint Riley. This thing doesn't go up very high. I live at 517 Carter, also on 134 Meadow Creek. I'm a commercial real estate developer by trade. It's unfortunate that a family like Derek has to spend 2 years to fix a carport that the community overwhelmingly approves 99%. How many signatures do you have, Derek?
Sir, we're up here. Sir, if you could address the commission, please.
Yes. He has 115 signatures and 1 or 2 people not in support. So I feel like there ought to be a better way to solve this, to be honest with you. I feel like the Board of Adjustments should have solved this. The gentleman is wrong. Plan developments get issued for this all the time. I've done it in 15 cities. You have real estate agents, architects, neighbors on all sides that support this thing. Your picture shows you can't even see it from the street. The thing looks awesome, and we got to make it easier for people. The guy's got 4 kids. I've got 3 kids. I wouldn't want to spend 2 years trying to solve something like this. I mean, the citizens of Coppell like Darrett's Carport. You guys work for them, and I'd recommend you approve it. Thank you.
Thank you. Shane Pope, and then Jordy Bernhard.
My name's Shane Pope. I live at 313 Meadow Creek, and I did not mean to sign up to speak. Thanks for y'all's
You're here.
work. I just appreciate y'all doing what y'all do. Thank you.
Okay. Oh, thank you for signing up. All right, Jordy Bernhard. And then if there's anybody else, that's all that's on the list. If there's anyone else who'd like to speak.
My name's Jordy Bernhard. I live at 751 Pelican Lane. I have lived in Coppell for 35 years, up and down that neighborhood literally as a child, so I know it very well. I currently have the unique opportunity to lead one of our youth sports organizations, which is governed by bylaws that are constantly changing and constantly arguing with the participating organizations in our neighboring towns, Grapevine and South Lake, we're constantly having to be reminded that the bylaws always are changing because every year there are continually new situations that arise that are never the same, right? So they exist, but they never should hold us captive, right? Every case has its own unique circumstances, and if we don't have the flexibility to recognize the substance behind their intention and to make a reasonably obvious decision, then I don't think that we're doing what we should be doing. So I am in favor of the proposed exemption. Thank you.
Out of curiosity, how often do those bylaws change?
Multiple times a year. Yeah.
Because of some extenuating circumstance?
Because there's always something new.
And then does that change
Because
again?
there's never the same lot that has the same issues. Or there's never the same kid with the same issues. It's always something different. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who'd like to speak on the proposed application? Okay. Sorry. I'm sorry? No, this is all I have. Yeah. Okay, so with that, I will close the public hearing. Any discussion by the commission, or are there any follow-up questions that the commission might have of the applicant?
Mr. Chairman, I have a question.
Okay, if we get the applicant back up.
Mr. Burnell, thank you so much for being here tonight. I really appreciate your presentation, all of you, in fact, and your energy for supporting this. Truthfully, one of the issues that we're charged with following the integrity of what this whole commission's for is, making sure that everyone's following the rules.
Mm-hmm.
And so I have to ask you, when you built not just this structure, but your other structures in your home, why didn't you go and seek a permit at that time for all of that work? What happened?
Yeah, as I mentioned earlier, I know a lot more about construction now than I did 2 years ago when we built all this. At the time, I know nothing about construction. So you asked the right people to help you out. I called a friend who's a GC. I said, can you do this for me? Is this a project you can do? And he said, absolutely. And I went back to focusing on my family, my job, and just trusted him to do the process the way it's supposed to be done.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Other questions of the applicant? Sue?
My question, I think I have to address to Mary.
Okay.
Mary, earlier when you were presenting, you mentioned that there was a letter from the neighbor, and I just looked through my whole packet, and I did not see a letter. I don't recall reading a letter.
It's the first letter in that packet. It's a 3-pager.
So I emailed you today the responses, and it's the first.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank
So
you.
I
Give me a
separated the
minute.
200 and the 800 and more.
Okay, so she took my notes here. But I will start with I've been volunteering in this capacity for 18 years now. So I've been around for a while. And Coppell is what it is because of our desire for what we want it to be, right? We're rooted in the vision, quality neighborhoods. We have zoning, we have development requirements. And what kind of blows me away is that you can't do anything in this city without getting a permit. Everyone should know this. Every qualified developer, contractor should know this. And so to not know this is really not good. We're dealing with a property, single-family residential is one of our most coveted pieces of property in Coppell, right? And we want the values to stay up, and no question. The carport looks great. The house looks great. The neighborhood is fantastic. When I drove through it, I was blown away at the improvements in the neighborhood and how well they look. It's a great neighborhood. At the same time, we have to remember there's building code that is on the books. And that the comments regarding the neighbor, they have rights too. There's an expectation that the neighbor has rights with regards to the development code, so what they can expect and what they, and there won't be any surprises in terms of what might be going on, whether it's next door, or in the neighborhood, down the street, whatever. So there's expectations for the homeowner, for homeowners' rights. And so and I appreciate that you took the consideration to ask around the neighborhood. In my understanding, those other issues are being reviewed by the building code department. We're focused solely on your application. This is different. We're faced with a front-facing driveway. Sherwood was an alley-facing rear-facing through alleys. And yes, it was older, there was issues going on, but as part of that development, when we considered that, we thought that, okay, maybe it might be appropriate. My concern here is if we change this property to allow for a PD, number one, we correct a wrong. I should have asked before I did it. And now I'm covering my mistake with a PD. We are opening Pandora's box across the community. Across the community. Bottom line, I cannot support this. I'm sorry. I cannot support this. Only because of what we face if we allow this. Tomorrow, my neighbor could go on, do whatever, and then hope that the Planning and Zoning Commission would agree with that, with whatever the change might be. So I'm really concerned from the precedent that it might bring. Yes, every case is considered individually. The Zoning Board of Adjustment obviously didn't concur with your request regarding hardship. That's a physical impediment on the site that prevents you from doing something. And so, are there other options? Perhaps, maybe a little more expensive, you know, dealing with the garage redesign, things like that. But I just, as presented with knowing our code and what's there in front of us, I simply could not support this at this time. I'm sorry.
Am I allowed to say anything, Mr. Ross?
No, we've closed the public hearing. I'm going to leave it at that at this time from my perspective. So with that, I'm going to turn it over if there's any other commissioners who'd like to make a comment. Sue?
Mr. and Mrs. Bonneau, I think your house is beautiful. The carport is lovely. I mean, it's the prettiest carport I've ever seen, to be honest. And I truly admire your creativity in problem solving. But I don't think that this is the appropriate use of a PD is to solve a problem after it's already in place. So for those reasons, I think I'm going to echo Eddie's comments on that I don't know in full that I can support this as a PD.
Anybody else? Kent?
I have a different spin on this, and I totally understand where my colleague, my esteemed colleague, I'll say, comes from on this. But my perspective is that these rules are for the benefit of the community. And when you have a one person in the community who doesn't like this proposed change. Yes, they're adjacent, but the rest of you feel that the design is appropriate and good for the neighborhood, then I think that's okay. And, you know, I appreciate that the fact that we have the rules. The rules are important. The integrity of this board is important. I'm disappointed that Mr. Bonneau did not get a permit when he was supposed to. He says that his GC did not inform him of that process. I don't know. Here we are, right? So I'm going to vote in favor of this.
Cindy?
Well, first of all, yeah, I want to thank you all for coming and being part of this process. I'm always impressed when I see so many neighbors come and to hear their point of view, and I certainly sympathize with the applicant. And it's a beautiful structure, and it doesn't seem logical that if you cut the top off of it, then that's okay, you know. But it is what it is. That's why the rules are there. But yeah, just wanted to thank you. And I live fairly close to this neighborhood, and I walk my dogs through the neighborhood, so I understand how unique this neighborhood is. It's really nice. And this is a toughie. This is a toughie for me. So I'm going to give it a little more thought. And there we go. But I wanted to thank you all for being here. Thanks.
Okay. Any other discussion by the commission? Is there a motion by the commission?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the zoning request.
Okay, we have a motion to approve. Is there a second? So there's
Mr.
no
Chairman?
second, so that motion fails. Oh, sorry. Okay. All right, is there another motion on the case?
I motion that we deny the approval of PD 319 SF 12 Lot 18 Block 4 of North Lake Woodlands 3.
Okay, we have a motion to deny. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a second. Phoebe, would you call the roll, please?
All right, please respond by saying A or nay as I call your name. Commissioner Blankenship?
Aye.
Chairman Haas?
Aye.
Commissioner Hafman?
Nay.
Commissioner Bishop?
Aye.
Motion passes 3-1.
Okay. So thank you to the applicants. Thank you to all that came and expressed your opinions. Coppell, we are what we are because of input like this. It's important that we keep receiving that as the Planning and Zoning Commission on. We'll have many more tough cases in the future. Thank you for that. I'm sorry it didn't go your way this time, but thank you for everything. Okay. All righty. So moving on the agenda. Item 8, this is a public hearing. This is to consider a PD-313R-MF-2 Lake Breeze condominiums, a zoning change request from commercial to plan development 313 revised multifamily 2 to approve a detailed site plan for a 71-unit, 4-story condominium apartment complex located on approximately 4.4 acres of property on the east side of South Beltline Road and the west side of Sanders Loop, approximately 660 feet south of Beltline Road, and an amendment to the 2030 Comprehensive Master Plan for a mixed-use community center to urban residential neighborhood at the request of Coppell Lake Breeze LLC and being represented by Greg Franca of GPF Architects. We have a presentation by Ms. Mary Perron Boswell. Mary?
Chairman, Commissioners, this is item 8 on your agenda. So this is a two-part request. Part 1 is a detailed site plan for a 4-story, 71-unit multi-family condominium product on 4.4 acres. The second part requires a change to the future land use map from mixed-use community center to urban residential neighborhood. So this is a proposed 58-foot in height. I think they have a 60-foot maximum, 4-story, 71-unit apartment complex, proposed to have condominium units, meaning that the units are for sale. The applicant has indicated that essentially an HOA or a condo board will be developed for the property with a board that administers the requirements. The condo board will address all maintenance of the building and site amenities. Again, this property is L-shaped, and the building matches it with the site plan showing the L-shaped building being offset from South Beltline Road, approximately 159 feet, 25 feet from Sanders Loop to the east, and about 66 feet from the northern property line. The southern portion of the property has a large Atmos gas line easement that runs through it and is 100 feet at its widest point. The main entrance will be off of South Beltline Road. To the north is the Dart Silver Line passenger rail that is currently under construction. So they are meeting the base MF2 apartment requirements related to parking by providing 2 spaces per unit plus a half space for guest parking per unit for 2-bedroom units, and 2.5 parking spaces per unit plus a half parking space for guest parking for 3-bedroom units. They are proposing to provide 4 EV parking areas among the parking spaces provided. As described, this 4-story, 58-foot in height building requires PD conditions since the allowable number of stories and height for MF2 is 2 stories and 35 feet. Because of the property constraints, parking is being provided on the northern portion of the site with parking in the front yard being requested. They are providing covered parking for more than half of the site through a combination of podium parking, which is on the first floor underneath the building, and covered parking, which exceeds requirement. So one of the PD conditions also that is being requested relates to MF2 and 3-bedroom units, which typically has a maximum of 10%. So obviously with the 39 units being requested, they are going to be over that 10%. So the building elevations and material board show a variety of materials and colors proposed for the building. There are 3 brick colors proposed, ranging from a light cream to a darker beige, cement plaster, Acme limestone, and aluminum composite material. So this illustration here is the first elevations for the building. The first floor parking area will also have the limestone with cement plaster in the 2 residential units on the first floor. The other floors will be a combination of cement plaster with blended brick, herringbone patterned brick accent, and ACM panels. Each unit will have an inset balcony with a steel sun canopy. There were no signs proposed with this development, so any signage will have to conform to city requirements. And here's just some colored renderings of the proposed elevations. So you've got the northwest to your top left, the main entrance to the right, and some of the other elevations there. We're going to look at the floor plans now. So the room breakdown of the 71 units is as follows. 32 2-bedroom units with a minimum 1,300 square feet, and 39 3-bedroom units with 1,600 square foot minimums. So these will be accessed from an air-conditioned interior corridor. There are 2 units proposed on the ground floor, and the remaining 2nd through 4th floors will be accessible by stairs and 2 elevators. One of the PD conditions, as I mentioned earlier, is to allow for the 39 3-bedroom units, which again, the MF2 typically only allows 10%. They are proposing an area on the main floor as a multi-purpose room, which is in the light blue on the image on the left. So the images that you're looking at, the first floor on the left, and then the remaining floors on the right. So there'll be a lobby and a multi-purpose room on the first floor, 2 residential units, and then the remainder is parking. Let's see here. Sorry, having trouble, technical difficulties. They also are proposing a walking trail on the roof. Staff will be requesting that they provide a mail area on the floor plan because it's currently not shown. In terms of exterior amenities, they include a dog park, a fire pit with seating area, water feature with seating area, butterfly garden, 2 flex sport game areas, and then they will be providing a tubular picket fence with brick columns along the north and western portion of the property. So this is the roof plan where they plan to have a walking path on there. So again, this property is located adjacent to the DART Silver Line. The 3rd floor of the complex is proposed to be roughly in line with the train tracks. There's approximately 82 feet separation from the building to the tracks. The following information was taken from DART. So DART anticipates weekday service for the Silver Line to be from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. However, it's possible that the service hours could be as early as 5 or as late as 11. The Silver Line will run every 60 minutes during the peak hours, such as weekday commute times. It will run every 30 minutes. This line should be in operation in late 2025 to mid-2026. So again, the train line is under construction. The tracks are elevated in this particular section. Measuring from the ground to the bottom beam of the track is about 19 feet. Another 7 feet of support, and additional 3 feet to the handrail of the tracks, which roughly lines up with somewhere around the 3rd floor of the complex. So the applicant is proposing to provide some sound-reducing windows on the north and west sides of the building. The applicant is proposing that all exterior walls include continuous insulation on the outside of the studs, which provides both thermal and sound-reducing qualities. Stud cavities will have a minimum R19 insulation for thermal and sound-reducing qualities as well. The roof deck will be heavily insulated as well for thermal and sound absorption. Exterior walls will consist of a mixture of brick, cement plaster, both providing enhanced sound-reducing qualities as well. Staff is adding a condition to the recommendation that if this building is approved and constructed, that all the windows on the building be the sound-reducing type that they're proposing on the north and west, not just for those areas, but for all the building. As well as the exterior walls include the continuous insulation on the outside studs with a minimum R19. In terms of landscaping, approximately 44% of this site is landscaped. As I mentioned earlier, there's an Atmos gas easement to the south of the site. They're proposing 65 overstory trees, a combination of live oak, cedar elm, Chinese pistache, and Shumard oak, as well as 20 accent trees. So the second part of this request is to a change to the master plan. So the 2030 master plan calls for this area to be mixed community center, mixed-use community center or single-family residential with a maximum density of 10 dwelling units per acre. The area was to be mixed use consisting of both neighborhood and community serving commercial, retail, and office uses, or medium density single family, urban residential with commercial services and transit services accessible within a short walking distance. This area is currently served by office warehouse buildings to the west, Cypress Waters to the east, a bank to the south, and a new DART Silver Line passenger rail abutting the northern property line. So part of this request is to amend the future land use plan for this site to urban residential neighborhood, which allows for higher density residential uses that serves the needs of the residents seeking alternatives to low and medium density single family detached housing. So condominiums are a form of ownership, whereas individually owned residential unit in a complex or building of like units. They would own their units but share common spaces and amenities. That's if we change the map. So again, this is a public hearing. We did send out notices, 7 within 200 feet, additional 10 courtesy notices within 800 feet. We received no responses to this current request. So staff is recommending approval of this request with the following PD conditions. 1, that there may be additional comments during the building permit and detailed engineering review. 2, that a replat will be required to create one lot. 3, that the installation of a southbound left turn decel lane on Beltline Road at the existing meeting and opening to serve the site. 4, that building elevations be approved as presented. However, building must provide for noise attenuation for all the windows on the building, as well as exterior walls to include the insulation on the outside of the studs with a minimum R19 insulation. 5, that site lighting shall meet City of Coppell requirements. 6, to allow parking as shown on the plans. 7, to allow the 4 stories and a height up to 60 feet. 8, to not restrict the number of 3-bedroom units. Number 9, to amend the future land use plan to urban residential neighborhood. 10, to require HOA or condominium documents prior to filing of the plat. And then we did add an 11th condition earlier this afternoon after conversation with the fire marshal. And we did talk to the applicant about this. So essentially, we're trying to work out the larger fire truck that we have. So number 11 is for the applicant to work with the fire department to realign the fire lane located at the Beltline entrance to accommodate the ladder truck. So this may mean the shifting of some parking spaces or the removal of some parking spaces, but they do have extra parking spaces, and staff is confident that we can work that part out. That is the end of my presentation, and the applicant representative is here to answer any questions as well.
Okay, thank you, Mary. Did the applicant indicate ownership, some of the thoughts on ownership to staff during the planning process?
Just that they would be condos. I would imagine that Mr. Franken might be able to better answer that question.
And then with regards to condition 3, 4, about the left turn, installation of southbound decel lane on left. Was there a TIA submitted with this?
Yes, and staff is reviewing that as well.
Okay, and nothing for a right turn decel? Just left turn to prevent hang up on peak hour traffic? Okay. Okay. That's all I have. Any questions of staff by the commission?
Yeah, just following. Excuse me, Mr. Chairman. Following up on the northbound decel lane, I guess staff felt that that was not necessary on that busy street.
I'll have our graduate engineer come and answer that question.
Thank you.
Yeah, there are not many trips generated by this development in the peak hours. It's below the threshold that it would warrant a right turn deceleration lane for the northbound.
So what was the threshold for left turn?
So the left turn, that's just being provided so that there are not vehicles stopping in the
prevent
through
that.
lane, yes.
And what kind of queue storage will there be?
There's a 60-foot storage bay. Based on their traffic study, the 95th percentile queue was 1.5 vehicles, so they have plenty of room.
Is that trip orientation a 50-50 split or an 80-20 or what?
Can't recall.
Okay. I know that traffic on Denton Tap is going to be thick, period.
Yes.
And that's what we're thinking about here.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm fine with no right turn decel. So, thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions of staff? Okay. Is the applicant here to present the case? Mr. Franca.
Good evening, Chairman Haas, Ms. Boswell, and Commission. Greg Franca, GPF Architects, 721 Dove Circle, Coppell, Texas. And speaking of the decel lane, it's shown on the site plan. It's a 60-foot stacking lane with a 125-foot transition on the southbound direction into the site.
Thank you.
And the fire lane came up just this afternoon. We got on the phone and I talked to my civil engineer, and he used the wrong fire truck in his modeling software. There is a diagram, I think, in the plans that show the path of the fire lane, the wheels of it, and he used the wrong truck, but we have room, and it's just from the street to the porte-cochere. Everything beyond the porte-cochere is fine. So we have some extra room in there. We have some extra spaces, so we're going to revise that a little bit to accommodate the 59-foot ladder truck. Okay. Going back to the original 2030 plan, in the history here, you know, it was always a mixed-use residential or component for this lot. So we always had this residential component. It's just that, as you know, mixed use kind of went away a few years ago. And even in 2016, there was still that residential component. So we're just following what the intended use is, less what was taken away. Sound is a big issue, was a big issue. As you know, there's a lot of development next to DART stations. Look at the switchyard in Carrollton, it's right there by the train station. Other developments along the Denton train or the DART, either right here in Carrollton or over in Dallas off Central Expressway. Developers go to where the DART stations are. They don't shy away from it because it's too noisy. But we are going to address the sound issue. You know, building code says 50 STC, which is a metric for measuring sound transmission through walls. Between units, they recommend 50, or they require 50. But because of our exterior wall thickness between brick, airspace, insulation, sheathing, studs, insulation within the studs, and then gypboard, we're going to shoot well beyond 60 for an exterior wall. And then the 3-pane windows, you know, off-the-shelf 3 panes are in the 40 range, STC-wise, but you can get laminated glass and other features like that. Look, I'm doing a sound room, a podcast room at a church in Prosper. It's like a 75 STC, but it's laminated glass. So there's ways to achieve that, and we'll certainly meet or exceed those that are closest to or facing the DART. And then even in the south side, we can still go with the 3-pane because there's that much less sound coming through. We talked a little bit about the roof. We just showed a track, but we'll be looking at different options up there, you know, stretch areas, gardening areas, because it's planned to be a concrete structure. So we can accommodate those kinds of features. The units, 32 1,300 square foot units, 39 1,600 square foot units, not including the balconies, and the balconies are fully recessed. They don't project out. They do have a sunscreen over it, but it's not a roof, so the water will go through, but you know, we'll have fixed blades to prevent the sun in the hottest time of the year, like August 15th. Other times of the year, like now, it'll come through. So But everything Mary said was very thorough. I'll be glad to answer any questions.
So the zoning, as part of 23rd, talks about ownership.
Yes.
And we're envisioning ownership for these lots?
Yes, sir.
Will those be in the covenants of the HOA?
Yes.
Okay.
And, initially they'll build out so many units, model units, and then as they sell, they'll always keep ahead of the units that are selling.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. Okay. Any questions of the applicant? Okay.
Wow.
I got another one.
Okay.
Are those covered carports, do they meet setback requirements?
Well, even the front yard, we're 25 feet back from so I think that's outside the setback.
But they meet our code requirements, right?
Oh, yes.
Okay,
Yes.
good. That's what I'm after. All right. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
All righty. This is a public hearing. Is there anybody who'd like to speak for or against the proposed application? Just out for the fun tonight? Okay. All right. Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Any discussion by the commission? Is there a motion by the commission?
Mr. Chairman, since this also includes the comp plan, I would appreciate if we had a motion to approve the comp plan and the zoning together so that it's
in
clear
one
in the
shot?
record. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Can that be one motion?
Yes. You could split it, so you do the comp plan, because if you don't change a comp plan, really, then you're spot zoning, so that's
Gotcha.
why. So it's clear in the record, and when
Yeah.
this goes to council, we've got a clear delineation. Thank you.
Anybody want to take
I'll
a stab
give
at
this
that?
a stab then.
Sure.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I move to approve PD 313R-MF-2 Lake Breeze condominiums, a zoning change request from C Commercial to PD 313R-MF-2, Plan Development 313 Revised Multifamily 2, to approve a detailed site plan for a 71-unit, 4-story condominium apartment complex on approximately 4.4 acres, located on the east side of South Beltline Road and the west side of Sanders Loop, approximately 600 feet south of Beltline Road, and an amendment to the 2030 Comprehensive Master Plan from mixed-use community center to urban residential neighborhood at the request of Coppell Lake
Sure.
Breeze
the
LLC.
applicant. Okay. So we have a motion by,
Could I clarify his motion? Does your motion include the staff's recommendation of the 12 items?
Subject to staff's recommendations.
we have a motion by Commissioner Haveman. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a second. Phoebe, before you call the roll, I want to ask staff one of the questions. So Mary, in reviewing this case, we're comfortable that this is the highest and best use for this tract of land?
Yes, sir. It would allow for, some alternate residential development. So, yes, staff is in favor of this request.
Very good. Thank you for that. Okay, Phoebe, would you call the roll, please?
Please respond by saying A or nay as I call your name. Commissioner Blankenship?
A.
Chairman Haas?
Aye.
Commissioner Haveman?
Aye.
And Commissioner Bishop?
Aye.
Sorry. All in favor, none opposed, motion carries.
Thank you very much. Thank you. All right, moving on. Item 9 on the agenda, 254 Winding Hollow Lane. Consider approval of a resolution of the City of Coppell, Planning and Zoning Commission approving a waiver of the Coppell subdivision ordinance, Section 13-9-1G19 of the Coppell Code of Ordinances, requirement that residential building pads shall not be less than 12 inches above the curb elevation, and for Lot 6, Block 8. For Lot 6, Block 8, Village at Cottonwood Creek, Section 1, that being 254 Winding Hollow Lane. We have a staff presentation by Mr. Cole Baker. Mr. Baker.
Good evening, Chairman, Commissioners. Today we're talking about this property here on Winding Hollow Lane. There was originally a house built here in the 1980s along with the development of the subdivision. Mary, if you can click next. The property burned down in 2018, and then it was demolished with the existing slab remaining. There is a new owner that is now looking to reuse this existing slab for their new structure. Next slide. The current subdivision ordinance, which has been revised since the original subdivision was developed, requires that pads be 12 inches above the curb of the street in front of the property. As you can see in this picture, well, it's a little hard to see in this picture, but that slab is approximately even with the curb, so it does not meet the current subdivision ordinance requirements. That is consistent with the other homes that are in this neighborhood. If you drive up and down the street, they're all approximately flat with the curb. The builder's engineer has prepared a drainage plan and a report showing how they will be providing and maintaining drainage of the property, and they're requesting an approval of a waiver to the subdivision ordinance requirement. And staff is recommending approval of this, subject to the following conditions. One, that the building pad site cannot be lower than 1 inch below the curb elevation of the affected lot as measured at the curb line of Winding Hollow Lane. Two, that a Texas licensed engineer shall provide a sealed letter to the city of Coppell attesting to the following: that adequate site drainage has been designed to protect the home from stormwater runoff, that the homeowner is made aware that the slab elevation does not meet current ordinance requirements, that the homeowner is made aware of the ongoing maintenance required for the site drainage to function as designed, that the owner or engineer state awareness of any recurring drainage issues. Next slide. That upon acceptance by the city engineering department to verify the above stated conditions, a certified copy of this resolution shall be filed by the owner in the deed records of Dallas County. And four, that no building permit shall be issued unless the conditions recited herein or compliance of Coppell subdivision ordinance have been met. This concludes my presentation.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Cole. Any questions of staff on the proposed application? Okay, any discussion by the commission?
Seems like a reasonable request.
Okay. Is there a motion by the commission?
I think it's my turn to make a motion. Okay, I move that we approve a resolution of the City of Coppell Planning and Zoning Commission approving a waiver of Coppell subdivision ordinance, section 13-9-1 G19 of the Coppell Code of Ordinances, requirement that a residential building pad shall not be less than 12 inches above the curb elevation for Lot 6, Block 8, Village at Cottonwood Creek, Section 1, which is 254 Winding Hollow Lane, subject to staff conditions.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Bishop. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, Commissioner Blankenship. Phoebe, would you call the roll, please?
Please respond by saying A or nay as I call your name. Commissioner Blankenship.
Aye.
Chairman Haas.
Aye.
Commissioner Hafman.
Aye.
And Commissioner Bishop.
Aye.
All in favor, none opposed, motion carries.
Thank you very much. All righty, in pre-session, we reviewed item 10, which was the update on council actions. Item 11 is adjournment. And I understand we have a nice load for our December meeting, so looking forward to seeing the commission and staff then. So with that, the time is 8:21. I'll adjourn the meeting.